Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy. Just a Spark, written by Hiro Kuki. There was once an unimportant, tiny star, which had a little second-rate planet orbiting it, on which there was a small, irrelevant being staring at a trivial piece of wood, a stick, for a fraction of a second too long. But that fraction of a second, that lit a spark. A light, small, tiny, and weak, shone in the blackness. It would not last long, for there was no fuel to further its growth, no ideas to nurture it, and no guardians to protect it. It was doomed to die. A tiny mouse had hidden in its burrow, snugly between its maiden children, for there had been a predator outside. But this was long ago, and it was most likely gone now. Now the tiny mouse was sniffing around, just inside its hole, to catch the scent of possible hunters. None were found, and so it decided to continue with its search for food. Splat! An ape knelt before the burrow of a now-dead mushed mouse, which it currently ate. Absent-mindedly, it looked at the stone near its feet and thought, "Need pointy." The spark had drifted for ages, uncaring for the orders of the darkness to die. Instead, it floated around, sometimes here, sometimes there, but today it was over there. Then something curious happened. It grew. Bluestone was angry. How could they not understand? How could they look away at what he had discovered, at what he had made? To tell him he should not anger the spirits when they were the ones to show him in the first place. But he would show them that he was in control, that it was under his command. Maybe then they would understand that he was made for greatness. Now all he needed was dry grass. The spark had grown into a slim glow of embers, clustered here and there, moving, changing, evolving. It was inevitable that two groups would meet. In a temple stood an acolyte. In that acolyte's hands was a tablet. On that tablet he had written the offerings and tributes of the farmers and the people of the city around the temple. But just as he was about to finish, he noticed a small mistake at the beginning and moved his hand to correct it. Alas, he was eager to end, for he was tired and the error was promptly made, ruining the whole tablet. He would have to start again from scratch. As he looked over the stockpiles, he knew that he would not sleep tonight again. If only there were a way to do this better. The embers were now the lights of candles floating in clusters, slowly drifting apart and drawing closer together, dimming or glowing brighter. Some were ignited and others extinguished, but there was no denying there. They grew. "But why do we have to make so many copies, Master? We aren't even selling them, just storing them somewhere in the archives or sending them to other places where they are stored next to copies of other scribes we've made. Why waste our time if one is enough?" said his student, a smart fellow, but far too arrogant and know-it-all for his good. "Ah, so you think yourself wise after only 1 year here. Then tell me, what will happen when the scroll is destroyed?" He then held up his hand to stop the pupil from talking. "Don't answer. Listen. What will happen when the scroll is destroyed is that knowledge is lost. Maybe not much if you are transcribed it, but enough to matter. Look around the archive and imagine what would happen if there was a fire. How much would we never be able to read and learn should there be no replacement? Now imagine how many generations have toiled to give us this knowledge and wisdom purified through the ages and making it available to you, without making you experience the pain and suffering they went through. With every sentence we write, a nail is forged, and with every book it is driven into the coffin of ignorance. Do you understand now why we write everything in triplicate?" "Yes, I think so." And from them fires grew, blazing into the night, protected by the few guardians that had been born alongside and drawn to them. Under constant vigil, those fires grew and began to connect, pulsing with vigor alongside thin strings of trade, bolstering both lights and the lines with every pulse. Yet there were those who lusted after what those strings promised, uncaring about the consequences of their actions, for they lived in the cold dark. What was a bit of darkness more for them? Franz had never hated his job more than in the last 6 months. To draw the corpse cart was a thankless, if necessary, position, but he never had to endure this, nor did his father. No day had gone by where he was not overloaded, and they had to stack the corpses like logs. And no day had gone by that the funeral pyres were not burning. He had already spent most of his savings on herbs for his scarf to ward off any miasma and only touched any corpse with gloves. But the worry would not go away, and as he stood in the middle of the street after calling for the dead, he noticed that the house of his friend was not opened, even though the grandmother of said friend was infected. So he went and knocked. After no reply, he entered. Half an hour later, his cart was a family of 7 heavier, and as Franz's thoughts turned away from grieving, they wondered why it was that his route of the Jewish quarters was always empty. Then he looked at the dead friend, and his thoughts turned dark. The lights still shone, the fire still burned, but it was a sickly glow, one of rotten decay and disease. Purity was seldom seen and destroyed almost immediately by the corrupted guardians. Hope was scarce, and only time could tell if the light would burn those impurities away or succumb entirely to them. Still the fires grew and grew until the size to bonfires, until something happened, something terrifying. Hibiki Fundushi was scared and nervous. Even with his rifle loaded, he was terrified. His situation was better than most of his comrades and brothers in arms after getting lucky and finding a hidden supply cache. But the night was silent, and he had not eaten in a day. No new raids had happened or had been ordered, which only meant that something big was going to happen. He should have stayed home instead of enlisting into the army. If only he had listened to his mother. Then he would not be on an island trapped with American troops trying to kill or torture and eat them. If only. Then he saw him, an American. His rifle was immediately up, but he hesitated to shoot, because the man before him was unarmed and smiling, actually smiling at him. Then the man spoke in Japanese. "Hi, my name is Guy Gabaldon. Cared for a talk?" Vicky Fundushi would agree after being shown a piece of chocolate and sausage. He would live to see his hometown burn in nuclear fire. For an instant all stood as 2 nodes disappeared, wiped off the face of the earth, but only for an instant. But that moment was enough for the cleansing fire of renewal to sweep across the globe and begin the colossal task to purify the corruption which had gripped humanity for so many years. But slowly it cleaned it all. With sacrifice and sweat and blood, the light was made anew, and the guardians made immovable. They would never let anything turn them from their task again, because now they knew the prize. Ever since the dawn of our civilization, we've been reaching for the heavens, at first only with stories and eyes full of wonder, but soon we wanted more than to watch and observe. We wanted to sail amongst the stars as we did on waves of our seas and oceans, explore distant lands, alien and yet familiar, hoping that we would find something that would help us reach the heavens promised by the gods of old. And when we finally broke free of our shackles and walked among them, breathed true freedom for the first time, our success almost blinded us. Yet we could not turn away the drive that we had once driven us into wonder beyond Africa, to sail across the seas and climb the highest mountain. We had to do more than simply walk amongst old paths and newly chart them. We had to run wild and free once more into the unknown. For more than 2 centuries, we worked towards this goal, culminating in the creation of the first FTL engine of humanity, and with it, we will demand our rewards promised by the gods. I am Julene Sonara, captain of the Torchbearer, and its 213 souls. May we meet again in 10 years with news of new lands and fast friends. Start the engines. What once was only a modest spark on just a small piece of land was now a raging inferno pulsing amongst the system of life and knowledge, stretching at the edges and chafing at its restraints, brimming with unused potential. And then a tiny spark flitted out and into the system at will. Then there were 2, 3, 4, and the floodgates opened. What was once a lone bonfire was soon joined by dozens of fires and hundreds of candles across the dark sea, hinting at the hearth of a young star that could be born in its midst given time. And as it grew, a spark found himself astray in an unknown territory, facing an ember that was not of its make, making both aware of the lights in the dark that they had missed. Halson Kirsch was nervous. This is it, he thought, official first contact. Something he'd been groomed for the year it had taken them to translate the Cyprians' lingua franca and learn their cultural norms, which were surprisingly close to what the humans held tight. As he walked towards his counterpart, he went through all of his lessons again. How to speak, posture, act, greeting. Wait, how did he greet? As the distance grew shorter and it was almost time to stop, his panicked lizard brain managed to make only one train of thought. Bird, weak, ape, strong. Conclusion, bow like a motherfucker. Which he did, only to look upon the hand of a Cyprian diplomat.
"Oh, you, bow?"
she said, retracting her hand and returning the bow immediately. Yes, but we also shake hands. Did you also forget to make sure of that? He said, not trying to conceal his mirth. Apparently, she said, with mirth in her voice too. The hall was filled with laughter, both mammalian and avian, signaling the beginning of a strong friendship between the two races. It is a rare sight to see two different lights mix with each other, to mingle and combine, to form something new, and to yell into the void, "Come on! Here we are, and we stand united! We are invincible!" It is rare, because as much as civilizations can glow with hope, they too can burn with hate-filled unlight. Alarm klaxons were blaring deafeningly into the bridge of the Needle as space, and the two fleets around it stood in flames, all were trying their hardest to kill each other, sometimes both. The bridge was filled with the sounds of the wounded dying and the screams of the Admiral trying to save a world. "Admiral, Omega-3, target Bravo Foxtrot to India, and where is the Battle Group 13? Communications officer.
ETA 2 minutes, they got held up by the mines.
Tell them they have won. Delta, retreat immediately. Tell the PDF to focus on the fighters. They are ripping us a new one.
7 new contacts in sector uniform, 5 frigates and 3 destroyers. Those bastards just got Zulu Alpha. Tango November and Sierra Oscar damaged heavily. The refugee ships are wide open.
To all carriers, flush everything you have. I don't give a crap what it is as long as it can fly and shoot. Take the new contacts out, or we have a massacre on our hands.
Ma'am, the new ship warped in. Designated Oscar Alpha. Planet Cracker.
Battle Group 13, engage the PC before the...
It's charging. It's fecking charging. How?
God damn it! Blue Wave cannot fall, or they have direct access to the capital. To all units, overclock engines and reactors. Full power to Oscar Alpha. Kill it at all costs. Block its path if you can.
Taking heavy hits across the board. Wait, Sierra Alpha is engaging FTL. They are running.
Sierra Alpha, what the feck are you doing?
Captain Feathers unbound. I'm sorry, Admiral, but we won't make it in time by flying.
I will have your traitorous skull for that, you feathery feck.
There won't be enough for me or my crew for that, I'm afraid. Then our dirge be filled with pride.
What are you...
Overcharge reactor, engage warp, for the Republic.
And in one moment, the screen and a 3D map went wide, returning to color moments later, showing the PC in pieces, and both sides paralyzed as the action of one suicidal ship that warped into another and winning the 1 in a million chance of actually hitting it, instead of exploding just by itself. What are you standing there for? Make those feckers pay in blood for that! When the light dies, it dies forever. No amount of bargaining, begging, or effort can rekindle what has been lost. But no light ever vanishes without an impact. For one always reaps what one sows. And so, it was that selfless sacrifice was rewarded with a victory. Just one. But sometimes, that's all that is needed.
So, what shall we do, Mr. President?
You are aware that you are asking me to decide whether or not I should save the Huldron from almost guaranteed extinction, right? The same that tried to kill us not even 30 years ago.
Mr. President, The question should not be if, but how do we help them?
Because it is the right thing to do, Admiral.
Partially. More to piss on the graves and the xenophobic ancestors of those fishy Fecks, and show them that we are better than them.
Anyone against that? No? Okay. Then let's piss on some graves.
Every light burns bright. Some more, some less. Some fill a galaxy, others fill only a nebula or just a system. For the only truth that all of them have is that even the brightest will die, forgotten by all. The school had ended early, which was good, but all transportation was out of order, which sucked, because it meant that she had to trek uphill for 3 kilometers to get home. Grumbling all the way, as only an angry teenager can, she barely registered the shocked and sorrowful faces. The broadcast of somber mood that permeated the city paralyzed it. But once she was home and had kicked her shoes in the corner, she heard her mother weeping in the living room. "Mom, what's wrong? Why are you weeping?" she asked. Her mother only pointed to the screen. On it were 3 words which made her heart skip a beat out of shock. Humanity officially extinct. And so it was that the last spark of humanity died, only mourned by an uncaring universe and the light of creation that permeated it, which they lit so many years ago. If you look for light, you can often find it. But if you look for the dark, that is all you'll ever see. Ira. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank all the T5 channel members and patrons. Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Lord Azrakal, Holly Sister, Dragzoon WRE, and Ambrose Catel. Thank you very much.